And you'll see in a minute, you'll be surprised how much comes away. Even I was a bit surprised. It doesn't look like a lot, but because it's a little there we are, you can see it's much more than I anticipated, but it's a hidden cave there, so sometimes that cave can be quite deep. There's a little bit of wax just around the edge there. I'm going to just quickly hover over, see what comes away. Sometimes you want to quick wash your head. We managed to get that out. I was really pleased with that, but we don't want to overdo it. And this section I'm fine with because the diameter of the suction probe, it can fit into the gap on the eardrum, but there's a bit left, a bit higher up. And if I attempt to go that, the right-hand side edge of the suction probe will probably make contact with the hammer bone. So the hammer bone, also known as the malleus, that's attached to the eardrum. That's the first of the 3 middle ear bones, the hammer bone. And the second bone, known as the anvil, or medically known as the incus, that's the bridge between the hammer bone and the stirrup. So the stirrup bone, also known as the stapes, that's the smallest bone in the body. So you've got 3 middle ear bones. Collectively, they're known as the ossicles, the hammer bone, the anvil, and the stirrup. Medically, they're known as the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. And the stapes is attached to the organ of hearing called the cochlea. And the site where it attaches to the cochlea, we call that the oval window. So when sounds enter the ear and they travel through the ear canal, they vibrate against the eardrum, and these vibrations are transmitted through the 3 middle ear bones to the stapes bone. And when the stapes bone vibrates, it causes fluid within the organ of hearing, so the cochlea, to travel in waves. And the fluid that travels in waves themselves travel over little sensory hair cells, and we call them outer hair cells. There are also some inner hair cells in there. And when fluid travels over these hair cells sear to backwards and forwards. And this searing effect, so the sideways movement of these sensory hair cells, they also contract as well. And when they contract and when they sear side to side, they generate an electrical impulse. And this electrical impulse travels up to the brain via the auditory nerve, to the auditory cortex, where it is detected and processed as sound. So it's a very complicated and intricate system. And so there's many reasons why people develop hearing loss. In the case of the ear canal, where we're working here, it could be earwax or infection, so an obstruction of the ear canal in some way. You can have a problem with the middle ear. So, for example, you could have a hole in the eardrum called a perforation, which reduces the mobility of the eardrum, so less vibrations are transmitted in response to sounds through the eardrum, through the ossicles. You could have otosclerosis, and that's when the stapes bone, it typically affects the stapes bone, that becomes stiffened. You get some additional spongy bony growth. You could have ossicular disarticulation. That's when the 3 bones actually detach from each other, and so they just swing without really transferring any sounds and transmitting it through to the organ of hearing. Or you could have, so if there's a problem with the outer ear or the middle ear, we call that a conductive hearing loss. So the reason for your hearing loss is the sound is not